Hey there, Scripture fans. Welcome back to the Bible Difficulties and Answers podcast. I'm your host, Lance Smith, and this is episode 161 of our Tuesday Contradictions series, diving into a question that's got some folks scratching their heads. What was the name of the tax collector Jesus called in Matthew 9:9? Was it Matthew or Levi, or are we dealing with some ancient identity crisis? Buckle up, because we're about to unpack this with some humor, a few analogies, and a whole lot of biblical detective work. So let's get to it. So picture this. Jesus is strolling through town, probably kicking up some dust with his sandals, when he spots a guy at a tax collector's booth. Not exactly the most popular job in first century Judea. Think of a tax collector as the HOA president who knocks on your door during game night, demanding half your pizza because he claims it's for community fees, and you know he's just keeping it for himself. In Matthew 9:9, we read, "As Jesus was walking along, he saw a man named Matthew sitting at a tax collector's booth. 'Follow me and be my disciple,' Jesus said to him. So Matthew got up and followed him." Pretty straightforward, right? Jesus calls, Matthew answers, and boom, he's on the disciple squad. But then we flip over to Mark 2:14 and Luke 5:27, and suddenly the plot thickens like gravy at Thanksgiving. Mark says, "As he walked along, he saw Levi, son of Alphaeus, sitting at his tax collector's booth. 'Follow me and be my disciple,' Jesus said to him. So Levi got up and followed him." Luke 5:27 echoes the same, calling the guy Levi. So what gives? Is this Matthew or Levi? Are we talking about one guy with two names, or did Jesus have a side hustle recruiting tax collectors? Let's dig in and find out. First off, let's address the elephant in the room, or in this case, the tax booth in the marketplace. The Bible seems to be playing a name game here. Matthew in one gospel, Levi in two others. It's like when your buddy Dave insists on being called David at work, but D-Money at the bowling alley. Could Matthew and Levi be the same person? A spoiler alert, most scholars and church traditions say yes, and I'm inclined to agree. But let's break it down like we're solving a biblical whodunit. In the first century, it wasn't uncommon for Jewish folks to have more than one name. Think of it like a superhero with a secret identity. You got your everyday name for the synagogue and your Roman-friendly name for dealing with the tax office. Matthew, a Greek name meaning hope or gift of God, might have been the name this tax collector used in his professional life or after he joined Team Jesus. Levi, on the other hand, is a solid Hebrew name, tied to the tribe associated with priesthood and service. Mark and Luke call him Levi, son of Alphaeus, which gives us a clue about his family roots. It's possible Levi was his birth name, rooted in his Jewish heritage, while Matthew was a name he picked up later, maybe to navigate the Greco-Roman world or to mark a new chapter in his life. Now, some might wonder if Matthew and Levi could be different people. It's a fair question, but the evidence leans hard against it. The Gospels describe identical scenes, same job, same call, same response. And early church tradition, like the writings of Papias, consistently links Matthew to this tax collector story. Suggesting two people would be like saying Clark Kent and Superman are different guys just because they wear different outfits. If you've watched The Chosen, let's be real, who hasn't binged that show? You know, they call this guy Matthew from the start, no Levi in sight. It's a smart choice for storytelling clarity, but it also captures something deeper. In the show, Matthew's portrayed as a socially awkward, meticulous tax collector, brilliant but isolated, scribbling numbers while everyone else avoids him. That lines up with the biblical picture of a guy who's been an outcast in his own community. The show's focus on Matthew's redemption arc from tax booth to disciple echoes the gospel's emphasis on Jesus calling the unlikely, As Brandon Hawk puts it in Word on Fire, Matthew's story is one of redemption, a tax collector turned evangelist, embodying the grace Jesus offers to the marginalized. Okay, let's zoom in on the texts. Matthew 9:9 is crystal clear. Jesus sees a man named Matthew, calls him, and he follows. Mark 2:14 and Luke 5:27 describe the same scene. Tax booth, Jesus, follow me, and the guy drops everything. But they use Levi. The detail aligns perfectly. Same job, same call, same response. It's not like one gospel says he was collecting taxes and another says he was juggling figs. As Chrissy Hansen notes in a guest post on Amateur Exegete, with this, the narrative parallels are too strong to suggest these are different individuals. Okay, to make this stick, let's use an analogy. Imagine you're at a family reunion and your cousin introduces himself as Robert to the new in-laws, but your grandma still calls him Bobby because that's what he's gone by his entire life. Same guy, different context. Or think of it like your favorite coffee shop barista. On their name tag, they're Matt, but their gamer tag online is Levi the Tax Slayer. The same person, different vibes for different crowds. That's how Matthew and Levi worked in the first century. A name for the synagogue, a name for the Roman world. As Dr. Ralph Wilson points out in his Jesus Walk study, with this, it's not uncommon in the Bible for people to have two names. Simon is also called Peter, and Saul becomes Paul. Okay, now let's talk about why this matters. The Skeptic's Annotated Bible points to the Matthew-Levi difference as a contradiction. They're like, come on, Bible, pick a name and stick with it. But this is less a contradiction and more a reflection of how people operated back then. The Gospels aren't trying to trip us up. They're telling the same story from different angles. Matthew's Gospel, written with a Jewish audience in mind, might emphasize the name Matthew to connect readers familiar with this apostolic role. Mark and Luke, writing for broader audiences, might use Levi to highlight his pre-disciple identity or his tribal roots. Now let's get nerdy for a second and look at the historical context. Tax collectors in Jesus' day weren't just unpopular, they were downright despised. They worked for the Roman Empire, collecting taxes from their own people, often skimming a little extra for themselves. Think of them as the ancient equivalent of a shady used car salesman with a clipboard and a smirk. Levi, or Matthew, was one of these guys, sitting at his booth, probably dodging glares from passerby. When Jesus called him, it wasn't just a career change, it was a radical shift from outcast to apostle. As Eric Barreto describes in the Bible Odyssey, a story of transformation from a life of collaboration with Rome to one of following Jesus. Okay, the name change from Levi to Matthew might symbolize that shift, like a caterpillar turning into a butterfly, but with less cocoon and more sandals. Another angle to consider is the authorship of the Gospel of Matthew. Church tradition holds that Matthew the Apostle wrote the Gospel bearing his name. An early church father, Papias, wrote around 130 AD that Matthew compiled the sayings of Jesus in the Hebrew language. If Matthew wrote the Gospel, it makes sense that he'd refer to himself as Matthew, especially if that's the name he adopted post-conversion. It's like if I started a podcast called The Lance Smith Show, but used to go by Biff Condor in college. Sorry, that's a really long story. I'm not hiding my past. I'm just leaning into my proper vibe. But what about the son of Alphaeus bit in Mark 2:14? Does that complicate things? Not really. Alphaeus was likely Levi's father, and mentioning it helps anchor the story in a specific family line. Some folks wonder, and this is really interesting and possibly worth a separate sidebar episode, if this connects Levi to James, another apostle also called son of Alphaeus in Mark 3:18. Could they be brothers? It's possible, but the Bible doesn't spell it out. And I'm not here today to start a biblical family feud. Interestingly, Matthew's gospel skips the son of Alphaeus part, maybe because Matthew wanted to focus on his new identity as a disciple rather than his old family ties. The point is, this detail doesn't contradict the Matthew-Levi connection. It just adds context, like a middle initial on a resume. Now, let's address the skeptics head on. Some flag this as a contradiction because, at first glance, different names for the same guy can feel like a plot hole. But as we've seen, dual naming was common. Think of it like a modern-day LinkedIn profile. You might list your formal name, but your friends still call you by your nickname. As Robert Grant notes in The Bible Interpreter, the use of two names for one person reflects the fluidity of identity in a bilingual, bicultural world. Okay, so why the two names? Matthew's gospel might use Matthew to highlight his role as an apostle and gospel writer, while Mark and Luke use Levi to ground the story in his pre-Jesus life, especially for audiences less familiar with Jewish customs. It's like how I'm Lance, your podcast host to you, but my mom would call me by my complete and full name when she was mad. Context is everything. Let's wrap this up with a practical takeaway. The Matthew-Levi question isn't just a Bible trivia game. It's a reminder that Jesus calls people from every corner of life. Tax collectors, fishermen, or you, sitting in traffic, dreaming of Friday. Whether your name's on a tax booth or a Zoom call, his invitation is the same. Follow me. The name debate, it's a detail, not a deal breaker. As the Trigger Man blog puts it with this, the tension in the text isn't a contradiction. It's a window into the complexity of human identity in a world where names carried deep meaning. Okay, so whatever you're called, know that Jesus sees you and says, you're enough. So there you have it, folks. The tax collector Jesus called was Matthew, also known as Levi. Two names, one guy, one incredible story of transformation. If you're still curious, check out all our episodes on our website, BibleDifficultiesAndAnswers.podbean.com, or drop us a line at BibleDifficultiesAndAnswers@gmail.com. You can also join the conversation on our Facebook page or grant us the courtesy of a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or Podbean. Keep digging into Scripture, keep asking the tough questions, and keep following the one who calls us by name, whatever name that might be. Until next time, I'm Lance Smith, wishing you good luck, good health, and God bless. So long, everybody.